Welcome back to my studio, and we're going to go ahead and continue the petals. You can see some of them, like this one is fine. I don't need to do another layer on it, but these two and that one all need to have another layer. Just grabbing a few more paper towels. I mixed up my paint on my palette a little bit more so I'd have enough paint to do what we need to do here. So we're going to start with this one up on top, move to the right so we keep our hands out of it. This is the petal that we'll be working on, and we're going to start with the lightest value. I've loaded both sides of my brush so that I've got enough paint to do what I need to do, and I'm just going to turn this so I can get into where I need to apply the light value. It's going to come right down the center here, closer to the right hand side. So I'm just going to fluff this edge out a little bit. There we go. Bring this down to where it needs to be. All right, there's our first layer of paint. I'm going to dry wipe my brush. So now I've got a clean brush. I can move down to my light value. First one was my highlight. Straddle this right over the edge of the highlight. Turn my brush over, come to this side. So I'm applying paint from the other side of the brush. And this does come down and around, so you want to be sure and get that in there. I just dropped one of my brushes. Just picked up a very small load of paint, so I can add that in on the bottom, like that. Okay, now, since it's such a small area, we might as well just go ahead and blend. So I'm going to crisscross right at that edge where they meet. Pull that down. Wipe my brush. Gently soften it in. This one looks like it might be the last time we have to do this layer, which would be good. Now if this were a soft yellow background or something like that, we wouldn't probably have to do more than 2 layers. But since it's a little darker, we have to do more, but that's okay. Doesn't hurt to practice our skills at all. All right, so I've laid down the first 2 colors. Now we're going to go to our mid value, and don't forget the mid value is going to be the largest of the petal itself, because this is the color we see when we look at this flower. Bring it right down this edge. Now there is a petal in between this and this petal, so you don't want to cover that up. Just keep looking at your reference material. This is going to be really lovely when it's done. This one's still damp. I'm getting my hand in it, so I'm going to have to back up my hand on my brush even a little bit more than normal. Okay, so I've dry wiped my brush, put my bristles right over. The 2 layers of colors, they're 2 values of colors. Actually, I'm going to widen that out since this should be a little bit more medium than any other color value. There. Get a clean paper towel here. So I'm going to crisscross this. As we go down. Okay, now we're going to go down to the dark. And this will take up the rest of the space on the left-hand side. You want to keep it fluffy on the inside edge. The outside edge you want smooth. Fluffier it is where they blend, the easier it is to blend. Keep that in mind. And we do have our tool. We can clean off our edges if we need to. Now I'm going to bring some of this down here, the bottom of the petal. All right, dry wiped my brush and I'm just going to crisscross down. It's not a very big area. Smooth it in. Just keep wiping your brush to get the excess paint off. I'm going to turn this so I can get at the bottom and blend it. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to take a piece of paper, Kleenex, almost said paper towel, and I'm going to lay that down. Go all the way down since that one petal does still seem to be moist down there. Okay. I'm going to set that down. I'm going to take my small blender. Just gonna smooth that in. Okay, now I'm going to take my tool and I'm going to go around the edges of the petal just to make sure that it stays nice and crisp as you can get it. Just helps to find the petals where they are, where they end, and where your next petal is going to start. Now, since there is a petal in between here as well, I'm going to clean that out. My board is lifting up from my Lazy Susan I have it on. I'm going to come back to that one because I got to turn it around to get at it the right way. There we go. Getting better. I'm going to see if I can grab a smaller. Since this is such a small area. Here's one. This is the same thing, only it's a little bit smaller. So I should be able to get in here a little bit better. Now you may end up with a haze in between these two petals, but that's not a big deal because we had to put paint in there anyway. We're just going to do that while we're doing our detail. Okay, let me go back to this side. I'm going to try this other edge on this one and see if that doesn't work a little bit better. Not necessarily, about the same. Sometimes you got to push pretty hard, but that's coming up. Okay, I'm going to do this one more time here. That's better. Okay, so we've got that one the way we want it. This one's the way we want it. Let's go on to this one here. And we probably do not have the very highlight on this one like that one. This is going to be a layer down. So we're going to start with just the light. Load both sides of your brush. You don't need a lot of paint. Just wiping off my hand to make sure I don't have any paint on it. Okay. So this is going to go right in the center of that highlight. doesn't necessarily come down real far. Just want to make sure it's nice and smooth. Fluffy on the edges. Like that. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my medium or mid-value mass tone. Just reloading my brush. And again, this is going to be the largest area, because that's our mid-value. All right, let's dry wipe our brush. And I just make sure this is fluffy on the edge. Fluffy on this edge. It's better even down and around at the bottom. Now this area in here is actually part of that petal, so just so you know. Back our hand off so that we get a nice smooth blend here. Again, if you're up too far on your brush, you're actually digging in and pulling the paint off. It's not what you want to be doing at this stage. You want to crisscross with your hand back as far as you can control it. And I am going to add just a little bit more light in here. Smooth it out. Smooth it out. Okay. Now we're going to go to our dark. At my reference photograph, and this does come, it does have an edge to it all the way down there where the flip comes, so don't cover that up. Always checking your reference material. It's important. Especially with roses, sometimes their petals are a little strange. You have to really take a look at them to see what they're doing and where they're going and all of those good things. I'm going to just turn this so I can get at the bottom there. All right. Dry Alright, so I got the crisscrossing done. Now I've dry wiped my brush. I'm going to just smooth it out. Crisscrossing on this side. My hand as far back as I can handle the brush. What you're actually doing is you're using the side of your brush, not the tip. If you use the tip, then again, you're digging into your paint and picking it up, and you'll never get a smooth blend. So it's important to move that hand back. Now I felt I needed more mid-value here, so I just went in and with a dry wiped brush and picked up some more of the mid-value. And adding a little bit of that in to where I thought it was needed. So I got a dry wiped brush. I'm going to crisscross that in. And I'm going to crisscross it in over here. I'm going to have to do a third layer on this one. It's very apparent. It's picking up all the paint. Okay, let's do that outside edge over here. I'm going to blend this just a little bit better. Okay, now I'm going to go down to the very dark. There's nothing left on this edge to add, so it's just this left-hand side. And I don't want to lose that petal edge, so I'm just making sure. I'm going to go to the additional red that we added on our palette. And I'm going to just separate out these two petals here so we don't lose sight of where they actually end. There we go, that helped quite a bit. And I'm just loading this side of my brush, and then I'm just actually tipping that side up, so that's the only side that is getting applied there with paint. And I'm doing that to darken it so it actually sits down behind this front petal, which is what it's supposed to do. I'm going to just reapply some of that dark over here. Needs a little bit more value there. It's not going to hurt to have it there either. So now I'm going to back my hand up as far as I can. Do my crisscrosses. Dry wipe my brush. And smooth it out. Do the same thing over here. Looks like I've done some of this already. Reapplying some paint where I think it needs it. Wait for my brush out too quickly. There we go, that's better. And just lightly skimming the top of that paint. Now, one of the teachers that I took oil painting class with was phenomenal. Her name was Ann Kingsland, and she's one of the best watercolor artists I've ever seen. And what she would do is suggest that you take your brush and hold it in the correct position, with your hand back as far as you can get it, and just gently go over until you feel your brush touch your hairs. Not your hand, but the hairs on your hand. And that teaches you how much pressure you need to apply. Used to have a very heavy hand, and every time I went to blend, I'd lose my values. So once I was taught that, it really helped quite a bit. So now I'm going to take my paper Kleenex here, smooth it all out. Yep, it's going to need another layer, but that's okay. This one will too then. And I'm going to just start on this bottom one. So now this one has a little bit lighter highlight. So we're going to start with the highlight. And apply that first. Fluffy on both edges. Okay. Dry wipe your brush. You always want to dry wipe your brushes in between the colors or the values that you're picking up, because if you don't, and I have that highlight on there and I go and pick up light, now I've just added highlight to my light and my values are wrong on my palette. So next time I go to pick it up, it's too late. So you want to be sure that you clean your brush in between. And just bring it around the bottom here, where it needs to be. There we go. Add a little bit more over here. Okay, dry wipe my brush, blend the two colors together, a little little crisscrosses, holding your hand further back on the wooden portion of the brush on the handle. And if you can go back, see, I'm actually further back than the number 6. And if you can do that, that's even better yet. Every time you paint, just try to go back a little bit further. So you're going to get a much softer blend. There we go. Now we're going to go to the mid value. And again, this is going to be the largest area that we apply. And this is going to come down in the front all the way to the edge of the petal. Just reapplying my paint. And I'm just lifting up that edge because I don't want to go over all the paint that I've applied above it. Soften this edge a little bit. Makes it a much easier blend. Okay, dry wipe my brush. And if you're having a really hard time blending for some reason, are your values real close to each other, or are they pretty far away in value? Because if they're pretty far away in value, you're going to have a hard time blending the colors together. You're going to have to blend and blend and blend quite a bit. So you always want to make sure that your values don't have a major jump in value from one value to the next. That's just going to make your life much harder in the oil world. But the more values you can get in to your paintings, the better it is. More realistic they will be. Okay, so now I'm going to go down to dark. This is our first dark. And then the outside edge will be our very dark. Over here. Be a little bit over there too. Not much. Okay. So I got my colors laid in. Dry wipe my brush. Move my hand back. Soften that in a little bit. All right. Here we go. Now let's go down to our very dark. Reload our brush. Try to keep your outside as nice in shape as you can. It's a pretty small little area there. Not much over here either. It's just a little bit. And I'm going to just define this edge a little bit better. So I got my hand in it before. And now is the time to do it if you have a lost edge like that. Okay, so I've wiped my brush till it's dry. I'm just softening it down as we go. And then I'm pulling. I'm going to blend this in a little bit better here. If you see something that needs to be blended, again, now is the time to do it. A little bit better, because once it's dry, it's going to be really difficult to fix it at that point. Oil's nice, you can play with it, but it's one of its disadvantages is once it's dry, you better be done playing. I'm going to just add a bit more of this highlight here. There we go. Just hopefully getting it blended a little bit better. Towel here. There we go. And again, we need to do another layer on these last two. You can tell the difference just by looking at them. Okay. That's better. Okay. My poor board here, I'm moving it around so much. Just adding in some paint here I took out by mistake. I think put some more medium value in here. I think it needs it. That's much better. And on the other side too. Sometimes you pick up more paint when you're blending than you want to. Yes, I like that better. Now, let's do the Kleenex. Gently do it all different directions. It helps to smooth it out. And there we go. I'm going to do Kleenex one more time. Just going to pounce it. Get rid of some of those brush marks. Same up here. Pounce it together. Okay, now my handy dandy tool here. Actually, I'm going to use this edge. Clean your tool in between so you're not pulling paint all the way around the whole petal. Just going around the edges. There's that inside of this flip over here that we have to deal with, but once this one's dry completely and we're happy with it, we'll put that one in. All right. Now, just looking to see what petal, all of these other petals that are left actually connect to the petals that are here. So we need to let this dry completely. And then we can move on to the petals that are left. So when we come back, we'll do another low layer here and another layer here because both areas need it. And then it'll look like these two. They'll look completed. And then we can, once those are dry, we can go on and do the outside petals. And then we should be able to do the flips. And then we can move on to the stem and the sepals. And we'll be definitely heading in the right direction here. So we'll see you then.